Hi class, welcome back to ARTC 290 Portfolio. This is week 9. Today's topics will include general feedback on the midterm portfolio submissions, a few questions and answers in regards to the flowchart assignment, getting into the next topic of the class, which is resumes, or at least part 1 of resumes, and then finally the assignment, which is analyzing a bad resume. Getting right into it. General feedback from the midterm portfolio is good. I think everyone did an exceptional job, or actually a lot of you did an exceptional job. There's a few instances where a few of you didn't follow directions, and so points were knocked off. I'm trying to be really particular as far as how I'm grading these, so I'm really analyzing each piece, the order, how many pieces there were, the presentation, and along with the use of your brand. And that's kind of like the criteria of what I've been using to give you your grades. Each one of these 5 criterias are worth 10 points, and so I've been grading accordingly. But not only that, is I'm trying to give you all really good individual and bespoke feedback, because not all portfolios are the same, not all disciplines are the same. Again, a few of you have, are using your portfolios for transfers, which is completely different from, using your portfolio for, for getting a job or progressing in your career. So a few things that I wanted to touch on in regards to the portfolio pieces is that a few of you have actually grouped your pieces into categories per page rather than a specific piece per page. By that I mean, take for example illustration. A few of you have, labeled the title of a specific page illustration, and then you have one illustration piece, and then on the next to it you have another illustration piece that is not related to this one. As a reviewer, I look at this and it's kind of confusing, because I'm looking for one specific piece that really accentuates your illustration skills. So to show this and this but have no relation to each other, it feels kind of cluttered. What I would do in that case, if you wanted to show more than one illustration piece, is that you have one page, show your illustration, and then on the next page, or maybe on a few pages after, show another illustration with the other image. That's just so you can focus on the work, or focus on one particular piece. You can really analyze different things. Putting all your illustration on one page, or putting all of your graphic design on another page, and using pages in your portfolios by category, again, it will make things feel a lot more cluttered and unorganized, whereas if you have one particular piece, it puts everything, it makes the reviewer focus on one particular piece instead. The next item that I wanted to talk about is a few of you have kind of crammed a lot of artworks into one page. I know that I know that there's some instances where there's multiple parts to your pieces. In that case, you can move on to, you can kind of overflow it to the next page. The reviewer will see that it's part of the whole system. You don't have to label it at the bottom, or if you wanted to, you can say if this was I don't know, like a campaign, you can say campaign, put the title of the campaign, 1 of 2, and then on the following page, campaign with the title 2 of 2. That way the reviewer can see that this is one whole campaign, and you're not trying to force every single piece onto one page. Forcing everything onto one page, again, will really clutter the work. It'll take away from the series, or from the campaign really. So you want to try to give it a little bit of breathing room. I've noticed that some art pieces are super close, or if not even all the way to the very edge, you want to shrink it down so that there's a little bit of a white space, again, to give your work a little bit of breathing room. That white space will really focus in or visually help the eye focus on the work rather than, if you had just white space on the sides. It's kind of a visual trick. So, give yourself some white space. If you had, say, like a poster or a letterhead and a business card and an envelope, you want to organize this in a way so that they're not touching or they're not really close. Look at the edges of the white space on the top, the white space on the bottom, and kind of use that as a reference to kind of measure how much white space is in between each piece as well. That's kind of like the rule of thumb when you're trying to lay things out. Again, the whole thing is just the whole point of this is just to give your pieces, especially ones in a series or pages with multiple parts, breathing room, and that just allows for better presentation and organization. The next topic that I wanted to get into in regards to the midterm portfolio feedback is for those of you that have multiple disciplines. I've kind of mentioned this already in that having a portfolio of multiple disciplines is kind of tricky, because I know you want to show off one part and then you want to show off the other part to show how versatile you are as a creative, but that kind of hurts you in a way because it's not specific or focused enough. I know that this isn't you don't have the luxury of trying to focus this because you don't know who you're interviewing with, or you don't know who's going to be looking at your portfolio, and this was more for a general piece. But even general portfolios should be more focused on one particular discipline. So for example, if you're an illustrator or a graphic designer, I would really just kind of choose which one you have more pieces of. So if you're an illustrator and you have 9 pieces, and if you're a graphic designer or your other discipline is a graphic design and you have 3 or 4 pieces, then illustration would probably be the better choice. That's not to say that you can't take from graphic design and put a little bit into your illustration. So you can have a bunch of illustrations, your how the process is, how your sketches, and create your portfolio for illustration. But for certain parts, you can say that for example, for like one piece, you can show an illustration and then you can show how it was applied, and your application can be on graphic design. So if you show your illustration, you can show it on a poster, you can show it on a business card, you can show it on a book, or you can show it on like a magazine cover or a magazine spread. Just show how it would be applied on the graphic design side, and that would be enough to show the interviewer that you're actually competent in graphic design. Having multiple disciplines and kind of mixing them together, for the students that kind of did mix it together, I was really confused as to what I was looking at, because my mind is so focused on illustration, and then I see graphic design piece. It really kind of threw me for a 180, and that immediately turned into like the weakest part of the portfolio, because you're seeing so many illustrations, and then you have this graphic design piece, which really took away from the rest of the illustrations. So try to be a little bit more hyper focused as far as what your discipline would be. But again, you can take from your other discipline and kind of apply it, show uses and applications, but keep focus on one discipline. The next thing I want to talk about is treating your portfolio with respect. This is really important because I've seen a few portfolios that were given to me that were kind of haphazardly just graphics here, graphics there. It's not organized, or it looks like some of the pieces were just kind of thrown on there last minute. I mean, this is the window to your creative world. You know, you have to treat it with respect in the sense that, you know, when you're sharing this with a reviewer or an interviewer or whatever, this is what they're going to use to judge you on your work and your skill. And if you're not showing that work or skill on the highest level that you can, that's going to come off as, you know, really amateur. I know everyone's working really hard in regards to that, but, you know, really taking a step back and just over analyzing your portfolio is the best thing that you can do. A few things too are spelling errors, and you know, some parts were some descriptions were so overpowering that they were so large that they kind of overpowered the actual piece. I don't know what was going on there, but you know, you can have your description or, you know, what this piece is be a lot smaller, maybe at 8-point font, with a medium shade gray, just right in the lower corner. I mean, it doesn't have to be this big thing that says this is illustration, you know. Make your work stand out. It's all about your work. It's not about the title. And some of the pieces or some of the portfolio pieces, I found that, you know, the titles and the descriptions really took away from the work or the beautiful work that you know, that all of you have kind of strived to create. The brand, I know that the brand was supposed to be used into the portfolio, but that should be used sparingly. Your brand should not be overpowering your pieces as well. So if you have, say, a bright red banner, that really will take away, because red is such it's such a prominent color. It's such an overpowering color that, you know, you can't help but focus on that red color, and then that kind of distracts from your actual piece. So be very wary of you know, the color, the fonts, just kind of the overall placement of things. I know this is very preliminary, but this is something to really consider, you know, when you start to rebuild your portfolio for, you know, for the final. That's really all I have for the portfolio part. Again, be very mindful of what you put in there. I want to say that I'll be done with grading the portfolio pieces, or all the portfolio pieces, by this weekend. Again, I'm taking my time with each and every one, just really analyzing it so I can give you all, you know, the best type of feedback. I don't want to just go through these real fast and say good, bad, good, bad. I want to give you all specific descriptions on, you know, what you did good and how you can improve on certain parts of it. So, you know, just be on the lookout for that. So the next topic that I want to get into is the flowchart. I've been getting a few questions in regards to, you know, I can't code, or I can't, I'm not a web designer. I get it. Like, you know, the websites that I've shown you, or for the hosts, there are the free ones specifically, like Corefloat, Behance, what's the other one? Dribble. Those you don't need to be a graphic designer to create that. If you have an Instagram, if you have a Facebook, if you have some type of blog, you can definitely use those. Please don't say that you can't design this, but haven't looked at these particular, or haven't you know, done a bit of research. Click on those links and kind of explore things. It's free. See what you're comfortable with. You know, if you're more comfortable with, you know, if you have experience with HTML or CSS or PHP, then you can move on to other things like Squarespace or WordPress even. But even like Squarespace, Wix, those have functionalities or tools on the side that will allow you to, like, just grab a photo, or, you know, create the size of the photo, double click, and it'll allow you to upload the photo on there. I call these websites what you see is what you get websites. they're really easy to use. I mean, again, all you have to do is just really click on the link and kind of just explore. It's really easy. There's tutorials online as well if you have any questions, or if you have any issues with certain hosts that I've linked. You can ask me and I'll find a tutorial for you, or I can kind of walk you through certain features. Again, the best thing that you can do is try these out first before before you kind of give up on and say, hey, I can't do this. You have time. Just really look into it and just kind of experience it all first before you kind of say, I don't want to do this anymore. But the next thing is for the flowchart too. Is I've gotten a question in regards to, can the flowchart change, or do I have to follow the flowchart to the T? No, you don't. The flowchart is really there just so you can kind of see how to build or how to organize your portfolio in a way that instead of kind of designing things and then organizing on the fly. When you design your online portfolio, you want to kind of have a good base and a kind of a good roadmap of where everything goes. It just helps you a lot more, and it's just something that you should really know as a creative, as far as the processes go of web design. I know that not all of you are web designers, maybe not any of you are web designers, but it's just a good quality or a good skill to understand and have. So next I want to get into part 1 of resumes. This is going to be a 2-part lecture. The first part is strictly going to be more of an overview of what are the good and the bads of a resume, what to have and kind of what not to have. And the next part will be more about the specifics on how to actually build a resume. I've broken it up into 2 parts because I want to make sure that you understand what a good resume looks like first, and what a bad resume looks like, and how to analyze that and how to apply that into when you build your resume in the next class or in the next lecture. So all of you know what a resume is. Essentially, a resume is a consolidation of your your skills, your education, your work experiences, some references to kind of validate a lot of the work or the things that you put into your resume, and then an objective within your career. So basically the objective is what you want to do with your career, specifically within their company. There's several things to consider when you create your resume. The first being that the content that you put in there is extremely important. First being the design. So the design of the website, or sorry, not the website, the design of the resume should be very clear and concise. It should not be jumbled. There should be a lot of white space, not too much white space that it looks empty, but there should be a good balance visually so that when a person looks at it, there's a good amount of content for them to actually view, to see that you're more seasoned rather than just a person that's just starting off. Next is the content should be at the forefront. So there should not be any images, or you can put images in there, or little icons or your logo, but don't make them so large that it takes away from the actual content. Make sure that specific or critical information such as your contact, your phone, your email, your website are all easily accessible. So they should be in the header as the first thing, because that's the first thing that a reviewer should really see and look at. Don't forget your name. I've seen a few portfolios where, or no, sorry, not portfolio. I keep saying portfolios. A few resumes where people have forgotten their name, and I'm just kind of like, who are you? Sorry, I gotta throw it in the trash. It's really important, so don't do that. Show off your skills. So your skills are really important as well. If you know how to do illustration, if you know how to do Microsoft Word, if you know how to do, if you know how to draw, if you know how to paint. I mean, all these specific skills as a creative are really important. So next is listing experiences, particularly work experiences. That includes the companies that you've worked for, the dates, and bullets and key points on accomplishments and the responsibilities within that company. There is an order to this, being that the most current company that you've worked for or the company that you're currently working for should be at the very top, and then it just goes down with the companies that you've worked for in chronological order. You need to quantify your experiences. So by this I mean you need to give recruiters kind of like the scope of the work that you've done within these specific companies or businesses, and list out how you've contributed, or accomplishments that you've done within the company that will really make you stand out. So for example, if you were part of a team that was doing a magazine, and the magazine required multiple pages, where you came in and you kind of organized everything. Essentially, you were the editor, and you had a bunch of designers, or you had illustrators under you, or copywriters under you, and you kind of directed them. That shows leadership. You want to put that type of experience in your resume, which is extremely important, because these are certain qualities that interviewers or companies are really looking for and are really sought after. The other thing that I want to mention is that you should include other positions, even if they don't relate to your specific field. If you have only one company that you've ever worked for, that's not a good thing, especially when you're first starting off. So you can actually list things like, even if you mowed the lawn for Mr. Smith, neighbor guy, you can write that down. As you progress and get more experiences and go through different jobs, these these work experiences will kind of drop off, and you'll add more and better job experiences. But for now, especially if you're starting off, you have to kind of list everything you can. I would say the magic number would be 3 or 4, whatever fits on a single page. So the next thing to list are degrees and certifications. You don't need to put your GPA in there, it's not required. You want to also include additional experiences such as clubs, organizations, volunteer work, awards, maybe some hobbies, depending on if there's room in that single page. And this whole thing, your whole resume should fit in one page. I've seen resumes go to 2 pages, but that second page is really more for references. Definitely do not break your resume so that, for example, if you have your work experiences and you're listing 4 experiences, if you have 3 experiences on one page and then it kind of overflows, your 4th experience overflows onto the second page, don't do that. Try to keep everything onto one page, just because it just makes it easier. Don't break the sections apart, and just make it more organized. So next I want to get into what not to put into your resume, or what not to do with your resume. First is having spelling errors. Spelling is such a big thing. Your resume is all about words. I mean, it's all words really. And have something misspelled, that's going to stick out like a sore thumb, and you do not want a reviewer or anyone looking at your resume thinking that you're incompetent or you don't know how to spell, which is really important. Next is an excessive use of colors and graphics. If you have graphics or things that don't pertain to you, take it out. I mean, it's not needed. You don't have to fluff up your resume with beautiful things to make you seem like a certain way. You can add your brand, you can add colors, you can add graphics and images, but really make it subtle and make it look purposeful. Don't just throw it in there. And also don't make the design so so bright or so powerful that it distracts from, you know, the actual content. Definitely don't put images or graphics above certain texts or texts in general, so that it covers and it, you know, covers words. That's a big no-no. Next is, if you are going to put graphics or images on there, please don't make them pixelated. If someone prints this out, make sure it's at 300 DPI, which is print quality. Don't do it at 72 DPI. I kind of touched on this before, which is DPI means dots per inch. 72 is for screens and like online. 300 DPI is for print. So the next is the content is not professional. So the words that you put in there are really important. So if you're writing, if you're writing in your resume, seems to be, you know, more for like your buddy or your pal or your friend or whatever, is not professional. It should, if you're gonna think about it this way, if you're writing to, you know, someone in the corporate world or someone in the corporate level, you want to show off your skill and your professionalism. And if you're, you know, writing to them like your buddy, then it's not going to fly. Next is list the graduation date for your education. That's really important too. Like I've seen people just kind of list, you know, where they've gone to school or their education, and they don't list the dates of their graduation. That's hard, because are you still in school? Are you still in high school, college, and a four-year, a four-year college? What's going on? You know, you have to list those dates because it's extremely important. Next is the description. So the descriptions or skills that you put on there, really put more of the professional stuff on there. So don't say that, you know, you like posting social media. Unless this is for a social media gig or social media job or social media focused job, then I would probably put that away, because it's not really the hardest thing, or it doesn't take a professional to really post photos, you know what I mean? And it just doesn't sound professional at all. Next is using exclamation points. Do not put any exclamation points into your resume. It's just bad. Don't. Next is don't use emojis. I mean, that already is very unprofessional. Don't do that. Next is not putting your contact information on there. Ugly designs. I mean, if your what do you call it? If your resume is just not organized, or if it's not, if there's too many colors, there's too many things going on, it's just distracting. It's all about the information that you put in there. So make sure that, you focus on the information. That also includes different texts. Different fonts. So if you have more than one font on there, or if your font is very playful, no, don't do that. I know some of you have really specific title fonts. Make sure that it's more of the traditional legible stuff, or legible fonts. It's just, you want to make it legible and readable, and clear and concise. So that's pretty much all for your resume for this part. Next I want to get into analyzing a bad resume. So I'm going to send you, or in the module, there's actually a document in there called Bad Resume, and in there is an example resume of a bad resume. I want you all to pick or to take a look at this and look at the resume and analyze it, and list out 7 things that this individual did incorrectly and list the reasons why. You can write it in a Word file. You can write it in a PDF. However, just get me, the 7 lists. So it's really simple. It's really easy. I don't think it's going to be really difficult. There's actually quite a few things wrong with this particular resume. So, have at it. If you see more than 7 and you want to list 8, 9, or 10 more, then go ahead and do that. Just make sure that, you list the reasoning. And that's pretty much it. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. As usual, email me, use the discussions. Make sure you answer this week's discussion topic just for attendance and roll call. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So please have a good week. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you. Bye.